So today I got into a bit of a debate with Westeros IO, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, over whether or not Jon Snow will come back much darker in the Winds of Winter, the context for him coming back, and just everything revolving around the character of Jon Snow and his potential resurrection. And before I get into the bulk of this video, I just want to say that there is nothing but respect. This is just a simple disagreement, and we were having a discussion. This is what this channel is for, so no hate to this creator in particular. I just want to really go over all of his points in depth and then give my points, because we agree on a lot actually. What we disagree on is not as much, but it is equally important in some ways. And for the sake of honesty and transparency, I deleted a previous video that I made regarding this creator because it didn't just convey what I was trying to say properly. I felt I made it in haste. So for this video, the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to watch all three of his videos related to this theory and related to me. That way I can address everything fairly and make sure I've covered every inch of ground. I'm going to try my best to go over everything that he says, agree with the points that I agree with, and debate the points that I disagree with. So without further ado, let's begin.
Agree more, and that is why I find the whole Jon Snow is going to become evil or really, really dark after he's resurrected in the book theory absolutely ridiculous. It's just based on nothing.
So before we get to the next point, I want to say I agree with the premise at the start of this video. A lot of people have this idea that Jon Snow is going to come back just completely evil and not care about human beings at all and just kill everyone in his path, and that is ridiculous. I think Jon Snow is going to come back far darker, but to the extent that a lot of the fandom imagines him, we're in agreement there. I disagree with the part that he says that Jon Snow coming back darker isn't based on any truth, because there is truth of that presented in the books that I will present in a bit.
People see Catelyn Tully and how she became Lady Stoneheart, absolutely obsessed with revenge and absolutely ruthless, etc., and just go, Jon Snow. That's going to be Jon Snow. While ignoring all the context. Number one, Catelyn Tully wasn't even meant to be brought back. Thoros of Myr literally denied bringing her back. He knew it was a bad idea. Beric Dondarrion gave his life to bring Catelyn Tully back. Thoros was like, no, she's been dead for 3 days, which is so long. She's been in this river, her body's bloated for so long. And he refused to do it, so Beric Dondarrion did it by himself. Like, you think George R.R. Martin didn't make that plainly obvious for the readers?
I think that is an incredibly interesting point, and I'm glad he brought this up. I do not think that George R. R. Martin gave Catelyn Stark a weird resurrection just by coincidence. There definitely is some meaning to be found there, but I personally do not draw that she wasn't meant to come back or that she wasn't meant to be resurrected, because I'm not comfortable drawing the conclusion as to what the story is trying to say in regards to who is being resurrected. I think it happened. We're not really sure why it happened yet, but I just disagree with this premise. Not because I couldn't be convinced of it, but just because I feel we don't have the adequate evidence to support it.
For a specific reason. Now let's look at Jon Snow. He was betrayed, yes, but he warged. We know he warged into Ghost. That means his soul, his spirit, whatever you want to call it, is in another being. And he has the power to warg into that being. We see Bran do it all the time. We see Bran's point of view. We see Arya's point of view of her being in the wolf. It's a second life. We have a whole chapter dedicated on the rules of warging and second lives.
So this is a really good point as well, and one of the things I love the most about Jon Snow, and I'm assuming this is what he loves about him too, because he seems very enthusiastic about this portion of his character. So Jon Snow, assuming when he dies, the last words that he says is Ghost. So he wargs into Ghost, and Varamir says at the start of A Dance with Dragons that warging is a second life. My point here, and the reason why I believe Jon warging into Ghost will actually make him a little darker, is Varamir notes in the prologue that when you stay in your wolf for too long, and this is something that Bran also notes, you start to merge with the wolf. You start to merge with whatever animal you're a part of. This happens to Bran in Dance, where he loses himself in Summer. Bran even commits to cannibalism because he's been in the wolf too long and is losing his sense of self. Jon even notes in the middle of Dance that there are times where he can taste what Ghost ate the night before while he's walking around, and the line between him and Ghost is being blurred. And in many ways, I think that is really cool and a good thing for the character, because Ghost is cool and Jon and Ghost have a really great relationship. But Jon becoming more wolf-like, to me, at bare minimum means that those wolf characteristics that he already has will probably be heightened. So we're told in A Song of Ice and Fire that there's this thing called wolf's blood. Arya has it, Jon has it, a lot of Starks have it, where they have this thing about them, where when they get angry or whenever their emotions come out, we see this with Jon, with Janos Slynt or Alistair Thorne when he throttles him, and then when he tries to kill Alistair at the end of book one, Jon has this emotional reaction to things where this strength will come out of him and he will sort of lose himself in his rage. Like I said, this happens at the end of book one when Alistair makes fun of Ned. This happens with Janos Slynt when he gets to the wall and pokes fun at Jon and Ned. And that trait to me is very linked to Ghost because I've read it as relating to the wolf's blood and relating to Jon's correlation with Ghost. So Jon merging with Ghost at bare minimum to me tells me that he's going to end up more wolf-like, which will make him more aggressive, and that like adrenaline spike that he gets, that portion of Jon's character, I believe will be heightened post-resurrection.
And that chapter is specifically set up so the readers know what's going to happen. And we can apply that to Jon Snow. And first of all, his body is going to be preserved because he's in the freezing north. His men are most likely going to put him in ice or he's going to be laying in the snow. Guess what? For not very long, half a day at least, because at Castle Black, it's all kicking off.
So I'm unsure where the confirmation is that Jon isn't going to be frozen for longer. So I pulled up this Bran chapter. This is from Bran 3 of Game of Thrones, when he's having this crazy vision and he looks north and sees his brother Jon. Finally, he looked north. He saw the wall shining like a blue crystal and his bastard brother Jon sleeping alone in a cold bed, his skin growing pale and as hard as the memory of all warmth fled from him. And we know that when a body decomposes, there's a time where it's warm, but when time starts to pass, especially in the north, it'll start to go cold. And the fact that Bran specifically says his skin is growing pale and hard tells me that he's going to be out for at least a fair amount of time. Definitely at least, at minimum a day. From the whites that we see in book one, we know that they harden really, really fast, but it's not hours, it's at least, I would think, a few days. And beyond that, what's even more important is the second part, as the memory of all warmth fled from him. Now, the memory of all warmth comes from Jon 2, A Game of Thrones. It is the final line of the chapter right before Jon goes north to the wall. So when I read that, I read it as Bran is seeing the love that Jon had from his family, his connection to his family, and just his connection to himself being lost, or if it's not being lost, just being altered by his journey with Ghost. And I think that part of him that is altered will make him more wolf-like, which is why he will come back slightly more aggressive. But again, this is all theories, but let's keep going.
There's no time to relax. Literally, Jon Snow's just been taken out. Everybody's going to be rushing in, doing what they can. Melisandre's going to come in. Boom, boom, boom. He's back alive. Body preserved. Soul preserved. Yes, he's going to be like, my friends probably shouldn't have, taken me out, and that's really bummed me out, and now I'm not in a great mood all the time. But is he going to be like absolutely, no, come on, let's be serious. Please, people need to read the books.
Yeah, so this is a really good point, and like I was saying before, we agree on a lot. I agree with this point, like I said at the start of this video. Jon Snow is not going to come back an angry pirate who's just bloodthirsty all the time. I just think we're slightly disagreeing on the degree to which that he will change, and why, especially in relation to the character of Catelyn Stark. I believe there are 2 more videos that are in relation to me, so let's go through them.
In the books, one of the...
Can we win as House Greyjoy?
Where is? Hold on. It is right here.
Hey, so I feel like your comment is in good faith, so I'm going to reply in good faith, but
it was in good faith. I wasn't trying to be snarky.
I do feel like I did answer the majority of the points in my video. Okay, so you first asked, why is Catelyn not meant to come back, but Jon is? Yes, I probably could have worded this better, but in the video, I do mention the fact...
I appreciate your modesty, very much so.
That Catelyn Tully was dead for 3 days, her body was in the river for 3 days, her body was bloated and, all shrunken and shriveled. So much so that Thoros of Myr refused to bring her back. The guy that keeps bringing people, Beric Dondarrion, back to life. He's like, no, this is a bad idea, we can't do it. But Beric Dondarrion is like, no, she has to come back, and gives his life for hers. Whereas Jon's resurrection is much more, his body's going to be preserved.
So, few things. First of all, I don't think Thoros is the end-all be-all as to deciding who gets to come back or not. I believe he even says with Beric Dondarrion that he didn't even know he was going to be revived the first time. It just, he prayed and it kind of happened. He's not some expert that can just decide for everyone who deserves to come back and who doesn't. But the more important point I want to bring up here is you say that Catelyn Stark is left in the river for 3 days, that she bloats, that her body is just all messed up, and we see Lady Stoneheart's design is like really destroyed. But when you look to Bran 3, A Game of Thrones, uh, Jon, his bastard brother Jon, sleeping alone in a cold bed, his skin growing pale and hard. So Jon's body is physically changing, even if he isn't dead for as long as Catelyn Stark is. So who's to say that Jon is any more deserving to be revived than Catelyn is? Like, how do we decide who is more deserving? And we know that Melisandre isn't a reliable narrator. We know that she isn't all locked in all the time, that she's kind of making it up as she goes. So I think that's a point I really disagree on, that Catelyn's resurrection and Jon's resurrection are just so distinctly different, and Jon is clearly meant to come back with more of his personality. I read it differently. I read it as every character that we see in A Song of Ice and Fire changes pretty drastically in death. Why would the rules not apply similar to Jon?
His soul is within Ghost, so he's not dead the same way Catelyn is dead.
Okay, so that kind of answers my point right there. You're making the point that he will come back more similar because his soul has been preserved in Ghost. But like I said a little earlier, just because his soul is being preserved in Ghost doesn't mean it is changing. And Ghost is a wolf, so Ghost is obviously hungry. He's an apex predator. He's a dire wolf, for God's sakes. So if Jon's soul is merging with the wolf, and his body is also being changed and altered in a very similar way to Lady Stoneheart, then to me it makes sense. It tracks that he'd come back more aggressive, and not just a little bit more aggressive, but significantly more aggressive. Again, I'm not saying like if this side is Jon's the exact same, and right here is Jon being a madman. I think he's like right here, not even halfway, but definitely much more than he was previously. And especially when it comes to Lady Stoneheart, the way they die is very similar in many ways. They are both in a place surrounded by people that they should be able to trust, or that they think they should be able to trust. They're both betrayed by these people. They're both stabbed from behind. They both have this break right before they die. They even have the same scars on their faces. I've gone over in depth all the parallels between Jon and Catelyn. I'd recommend checking out my Jon and Catelyn video that I posted on YouTube. But these characters are very similar in life. Are they one-to-one? No. But throughout A Song of Ice and Fire, there are countless moments where Catelyn Stark goes through something and Jon has a very similar experience, like them both having scars on their hands. So them coming back darker and paralleling each other there tracks for me personally. Again, I'm not saying Jon is going to be as insane as Catelyn, because what she goes through is worse when she dies, but I think it tracks that he will come back worse. But let's keep going.
Plus, he's going to be dead for such a shorter amount of time. So when I say Catelyn wasn't meant to be brought back, I'm saying under the circumstances, nobody would have brought Catelyn back, except for Beric Dondarrion. You say, first of all, we
don't know that. We know that the other guy wouldn't bring her back, but we don't know that no one would. But I don't think this like destroys your point or anything. I'm just saying.
know from the Varamir chapters that death is terrifying and breaks people, absolutely, but that goes to the point I previously just said. Catelyn Tully was dead for 3 days. Jon's going to be dead for half a day while his soul is in another being which keeps him alive. So those two things are very drastically different, so one's going to be a lot more broken than the other.
We are in agreement. I just said this. Yep, we are in agreement here.
And then you say Jon is naturally more heightened in his emotions. And then you say Jon is a lot more heightened in his emotions. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that. Sure. Third, we have already seen that Jon has no issues killing people who have wronged him or his family. Bro kills Janos Slynt not out of honor, but because he wants to. Come on. You know that's not true.
I will admit this comment came off incorrect from what I was trying to say. Jon kills Janos Slynt for 2 reasons. One is Janos Slynt is disobeying a direct order. So because Jon is Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, Janos Slynt by rights needs to die. We are in full agreement there. And I believe you also say later on that Jon does want to kill Janos, but I believe that Jon's reasoning for killing Janos Slynt are more powerful than you seem to be letting on in this moment. And I'm going to get quotes to say why. So we go to John 4. I am on page 107. And what is essentially happening is John is sending Janos Slynt to man a different portion of the wall, and it's a shitty job, and he will probably end up dying. And when John gives Janos Slynt this order, he does rationalize that Janos Slynt wouldn't even be a bad man to man this portion of the wall, because he did serve in King's Landing. Like, he's not a no one. But what he thinks while giving this order is very interesting. And John is actually sharpening his sword before this scene plays out. But it begins. John slid the oilcloth down his bastard sword, watching the play of morning light across the ripples, thinking how easily the blade would slide through the skin and fat, and... Dude, he's literally thinking about killing Janos Slynt right here. Thinking how easily the blade would slide through skin and fat, and slice Janos Slynt's ugly head from his body. And then, he says, all of a man's crimes were wiped away when he took the black, and all of his allegiances as well. Yet he found it hard to think of Janos Slynt as a brother. There is blood between us. The man helped slay my father, and it is best to have me killed as well. So, in this moment, page 108, in the middle of the page, John is literally admitting that he's sharpening Longclaw with the thought in mind of killing Janos Slynt. So, yes, John kills Janos Slynt for a legitimate reason, that being he's disobeying a direct order, but John is also low-key setting him up for failure. He knows Janos Slynt isn't going to take this shitty-ass job. He's rationalizing in his head that, oh, Janos Slynt is a decent commander, so it's right if we do this. But deep down, John isn't stupid, and even if he's not thinking about it consciously, I think subconsciously he knows that he wants to kill Janos Slynt. He then says, Lord Janos, John sheathed his sword, I am giving you command of the Grey Guard. That took Slynt aback. Grey Guard was where you climbed the wall with your wildling friends. You'll sleep on stone, too exhausted to complain or plot, and soon you'll forget what it was like to be warm, but you might remember what it was to be a man. John also points out here that he's sending Janos Slynt to intentionally undercut him, to undercut his power, to separate him from Alliser Thorne. So John sending him to this other spot is not just, oh, I want you to go do this. It is very tactical. He's doing it to weaken Janos Slynt, he's doing it to slight Janos Slynt, and he's doing it to get a rise out of Janos Slynt. He tells him that you will have 30 men, essentially saying that, yo, if you get raided, you're done. Janos Slynt then says, do you think I cannot see what you are doing? Janos Slynt is not a man to be gulled so easily. I was charged with the defense of King's Landing when you were still soiling your swaddling clothes. John then says, I am giving you a chance, my lord. It is more than you ever gave my father. So this whole chapter, John is thinking about cutting off Janos Slynt's head. He's thinking about the fact that Janos Slynt was involved in the execution of his father, and he then pushes further to execute him. I will continue. Janos Slynt then obviously resists, which Jon Snow figured that he would. He then gives Janos Slynt one more chance, which goes to your point that he was giving him a chance and that he was relatively fair with Janos Slynt. But then this happens. After Janos Slynt resists, Alliser Thorne goes to reach for his sword, and Jon thinks, show your steel. Give me cause to do the same. Then, as I spoke previously, which I will read now, Jon cuts his head off. If you have any last words, now is the time to speak them, he said, expecting one last curse. Janos Slynt twisted his neck around to stare up at him. Please, my lord, mercy, I'll go. I will. No, thought Jon. You closed that door. So in this chapter, what this reads like to me is Jon Snow gives Janos Slynt and puts him in a predicament where he knows Janos Slynt is going to resist. After he comes to the conclusion that he is going to do this, he starts sharpening his sword, and he is literally thinking, while sharpening his sword, how easy and just smooth as butter Longclaw would slice right through Janos Slynt's neck and cut his head off. Then, when Janos Slynt resists, as he knew he would, he's hoping that Alliser Thorne draws his steel, that way he can cut his head off too. This whole time, thinking about his father, thinking about what Janos Slynt did to Ned, and then when the time comes for him to be executed, he goes, nah, we're doing this my way. I'm cutting your head off myself. And this could be for many reasons. One, he who passes a sentence must swing the sword, but also that's how Ned lost his head. There might be a little bit of pettiness there that Jon is thinking about, and he really is. I really read this as Jon taking revenge for what happens to his father. And you agree, and I appreciate that you agree, that Jon did kill Janos Slynt partially because he wanted to, but your main argument, at least the way I read it, is that he did it because he had to. He did it more because he had to, and he didn't really want to, just kind of. I am pushing this the other way. I believe Jon builds this entire scenario around the idea that he knows Janos Slynt is going to resist, and that he will get the chance to punish him. Even if he didn't mean for it consciously, subconsciously the whole time, Jon is just itching for blood. He's been itching to kill Alistair Thorne since book 1. He's been itching to kill Janos Slynt for a long time. And this is my point with Jon. Throughout the books, and there are a lot of other things that I could bring up, that I will bring up whenever I do my very long Jon Snow breakdown that will come in the next few months, that there are many moments where Jon has this anger inside of him, this darkness. There's a moment where when the wildlings are attacking the wall, he thinks about how them screaming and dying and burning is music to his ears. And I'm saying this as like a huge Jon fan. Jon is my favorite character in fiction. He, in many ways, is my mirror. I genuinely love the character and just I respect the work that George did so much. So when I'm saying this is coming from a Jon Snow fanboy. Jon is not the stereotypical hero who always does the right thing and is always making the right choices and is always morally righteous. There is this darkness in him that is very real and very natural because he's a human being. And that is why I think when he eventually gets revived, that part of him, at least for a time, will be more prevalent. Because you admit at the end of these videos that if he gets killed, he's going to come back pissed. Like, why is he getting betrayed? But let's continue with your video.
In the book, Jon Snow gives Janos Slynt 2
I like your fit, by the way.
opportunities to go and follow the orders that Jon gives him. Not one like in the show, 2. He asks him the first time, Janos is like, no. He goes the second time and says, you have to go, you have to follow my orders because not doing so makes your life forfeit. If you deny my orders, bad things are going to
These are all the points that I just went over. I was jumping ahead a little bit because I did watch this video before recording this.
happen. Janos Slynt says, no, I'm not going. Oh, no. That's why Jon takes him out. Just like he would have done anybody else because Janos Slynt disobeys a direct order twice. What other chain of command allows, come on, you know. Did he want to take him out? Yes. Did he do it without good reason? No. I don't know how you can read Jon's chapters and
I appreciate the recognition of the other side. I just believe that, at least the way you're making it play off here, that you believe it's more of a 50-50, possibly. Well, I believe it's going way more the other way, that Jon, he wanted to do this, and that's what sparks this whole thing. I don't believe Jon had to do it, and then his wants, spilled in. I think he wanted to the whole time, and he creates a situation for this to happen.
come away not saying he's going to come back super pissed. I said he's going to become... I said he's not going to come back like, hey, how are you doing, everybody? He's going to come back like,
This is why I'm making this video to begin with. Talking through TikTok comments is nonsense. I'm done responding to comments or leaving comments because I can never say enough. So much gets lost in translation, and it just never works out.
I was clearly implying he's going to be pissed off because his men killed him and betrayed him, obviously. Not saying he's going to be evil. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's going to be evil. But
On the same page.
But he won't, but he will, without a doubt, be much colder for a time. That's... Brother, we are brothers.
Yeah,
I
we're
said
locked
the same
in.
thing.
We're locked
I'm probably
in
not saying it word for word the way you are, but come on, bro.
This is the crux of the disagreement. It's the Catelyn Stark and the 3 days thing, and then whether or not Jon wanted to kill Janos Slynt. And I can't say this enough because I think this is really important to understand for the character of Jon. And this goes beyond just this little debate. He literally thinks about cutting off Janos Slynt's head while right before it happens, while sharpening Longclaw. Again, page 108. Jon slid the oilcloth down his bastard sword, watching the play of morning light across the ripples, thinking how easily the blade would slide through skin and fat and pull apart Slynt's ugly head from his body. All of a man's crimes were wiped away when he took the black, and all of his allegiances are well. Yet he had found it hard to think of Janos Slynt as a brother. There was blood between us. His men helped slay my father, and he did his best to have me killed as well. Jon, I fully believe, is setting up the situation to happen. Now, There was one more video made in relation to a video that I had made originally. I deleted that video because it came off wrong. I'm going to go through it a little bit. I don't remember how much is actually relevant, but we shall see. Let me just finish the video first.
Come on, man. You know, you watch my video. You know I said these things.
I'm watching the video. This is proof in 4K.
Come on. You know that's not true.
Jon followed. All right, I come off like a little bit of a smartass there. I'll admit it. The stitch to the reading is a little much. Let me give you context. I was trying to get this out before I had things to do. I was hanging out with my girlfriend. We had something to handle. I just really rushed through it, which is why I deleted it, because it wasn't representative of what I was really trying to say.
Broski, what is going on here? You cut off the bit where I was about to explain. You cut it off, read out a chapter, and then didn't address my points at all.
Broski took it down. Little do you know. This guy is like the plague. I watched him for a little bit, but it's horror. Damn.
Come on.
Damn,
You know that's not true. On here, you cut off the bit where I was about to explain. You cut it off, read out a chapter, and then didn't address my points at all. Because in my original video, in which you watched, I assume, I said Jon Snow wanted to kill Janos Slynt. However, he did not kill Janos Slynt because he wanted to. Jon had good reason to kill Janos Slynt because he disobeyed 2 direct orders.
So again, this goes back to my point. I believe Jon Snow, it's both. He kills Janos Slynt, and it is justifiable to the Men of the Night's Watch. Like, to the broader people, to the Men of the Night's Watch. He kills Janos Slynt because he disobeys 2 orders. Jon sets up those shitty orders, expects him to disagree, and then the whole time is like, oh yeah, I can't stand Janos Slynt. So, I think it's very
Give me one leader, one person who, in military, in Westeros, whatever you want to call it, who would allow their men to disobey.
Also, I'm not criticizing Jon Snow. If I'm in his position, I'd be feeling very similar. I mean, come on, Janos Slynt is a piece of shit.
2 direct orders, insult them, etc., and then be like, he's gonna live. No, everybody's getting executed in that point, and you're just being disingenuous, man. Because you know that's my point. And then you mentioned honor. I had never mentioned honor. You mentioned honor. Like, you're arguing points I've not made, and you're arguing points that we agree with. We agree that Jon Snow wants.
I like the confusion in his eyes. He's like, why? Why are you disagreeing with me? We understand one another. And I'm sitting here like, it's just 2 things.
To kill Janos Slynt, but you're saying he killed Janos Slynt because he wanted to. He didn't kill Janos Slynt because he wanted to. Jon had good reason, and that is in my video, and that is in the chapter you read. Why, man? This is meant to be.
So, you now see the crux of the disagreement, why I read the chapter, where I was coming from. I firmly believe that Jon Snow went into beheading Janos Slynt with at least a subconscious desire to want to kill him. Considering he thinks about it, he sharpens Lawclaw while thinking about killing him. He thinks about Ned. He gives him a terrible order that he knows he's not going to like. He even hopes Alistair Thorne does the same. That's the video. That's my disagreement. Now, I want to do a little bit of a separate analysis here just for a few minutes about Jon Snow potentially coming back much darker. This is going to be something I'm going to really expand on when I get to my 5th video on YouTube, going over Jon's future in the Winds of Winter. But to me, all roads point to one direction. Jon Snow gets revived after a day or 2, maybe. Could be shorter, could be longer. Comes back more attached to Ghost. There's a great theory on here that Jon might lose Ghost in the process, that Ghost's life might be sacrificed, or Monster, the child that is still at the wall that Jon baby switched, is going to have to die, because only death can pay for life. There has to be some sort of sacrifice that Melisandre uses. Now, that sacrifice, I believe, just that stain that someone or something that Jon was responsible for had to die, will automatically stain the character and make him darker, just in general. And I think him coming back, remember, right before he dies, his goal is with his buddy Tormund to march south and save his sister. That's his goal with the Wildlings. I think he comes back with that goal. Way more hardcore, because he's died, he's been betrayed, people that he respected, people that he loved, people that he trusted killed him, and then possibly his companion Ghost, or the baby that he was responsible for, dies in the process. And being revived, much like Catelyn Stark, the man that was Jon Snow, the boy that was Jon Snow, will have lost everything. And when people lose everything, at least for a time, in my experience, they are very nasty. I agree with you that Jon is not going to come back and just start murdering people like he's Gregor Clegane, or even be as bad as Lady Stoneheart. But for a time, I believe Jon Snow will be much like Lady Stoneheart and will be threading that line as to, is this the character that I thought I was following? Is this a good guy? And we see George do this with other characters. He does this with Catelyn, he does it with Tyrion, he does this with Jaime, he does it with Cersei. He has so many morally great characters, and Jon is obviously much better than many of those people. But that's George R. R. Martin's style. He likes to push the boundaries of what is a protagonist, what is a hero, what is a villain, where is the line, where do you draw it? And maybe where you draw it is different from where I draw it. And that's kind of the reason I want to post this video, is aside from our little disagreement, I feel there is a very good conversation to have here, and me and you can go back and forth for days on end about this. And the end all be all is hopefully we just get wins. And then we can sit there making videos back and forth, talking about how much we love Jon Snow and how insane wins is. But I digress. With all that being said, again, all due respect to Westerosi IO, I really wanted this video to be less of not a call out at all, and less of a response, more of a let's build off of what you were saying. The main reason I decided to do this more formally in my PC setup, and I kind of want this to just reach I want people to see this, not for the sake of, oh, we're having a disagreement, but for the sake of, no, we're disagreeing, and this is a really productive conversation, and this is something that people can build off of for discourse in the future. Discourse in the future about characters, conversation about this topic. And in general, I think we've both made good progress in theorizing, at least I did, for my theory here. So with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I know this is a much longer and more unconventional video style, but thank you, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Peace.